Say again?
I thought it was you that had control of the snow and the weather.
I do with my shovel, but that's not the way to handle it. I figured out.
Oh, I lost something here, Jen.
Say, Larry, did you receive that letter from the watershed district?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Connected to Katie's iPhone and Dustin's iPhone. Connected to.
Usually on set for 6:30.
Jen, Larry, I have 6:30. I'm going to start the meeting.
Yes, that would be good.
Okay, good evening. This is the Turtle Lakes Planning Commission for October 22nd. I'm going to go through a few procedural items for both Planning Commission members as well as anybody that might be on the line. And I have to read this to make it formal, so bear with me, please. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.021, it is hereby found necessary that in-person meetings of the Planning Commission are not practical or prudent due to the COVID-19 health pandemic and the peacetime emergency declared by Governor Walz. Therefore, today's meeting is being held through telephone and other electronic means without members of the public or city officials present at the regular physical location. These proceedings are being live streamed through YouTube to meet the requirements of Minnesota Statute 13D.021. So again, I think most of us have been through all this Zoom and the virtual meetings, but I'll just kind of remind everybody, remember you have a mute button down to the left-hand side of your screen. So when you're not on, if you would please mute yourself. Planning Commission members, you can mute yourself, but be prepared when we get to votes that I'll need you to make sure your mute is off and you should be ready to either comment or vote. Anytime anybody's speaking on here, whether it's a Planning Commission member or a member of the public, please identify yourself each time. I don't know that you need to say your full name after the first time if you're speaking again, but please identify yourself. So we have Jen Beck and our city staff taking minutes, and she's going to want to be able to pick up whoever's talking. Again, Planning Commission members, if you are discussing something, please say your name, and then I'm going to need whoever makes the motion to identify themselves, and the seconder should also identify themselves. We are going to need a roll call vote for each vote, so be prepared for that. And if you are a member of the public, we are going down the agenda. If you have the agenda that Larry's sent out or our staff has sent out, we're going right down the agenda in order so you can see where you're at on the agenda and be prepared to speak on that issue at that time. With that, I need to take a roll call first of Planning Commission members. And as I announce your name, this is the order I'm going to have you vote in each time, so you can be prepared for that too. So Liz Foster Anderson, are you here?
I am here, Bruce.
Bob Luizo,
Yes.
Chris Nord,
Yes, I'm here, Bruce.
thank you. Dan Wenner,
Here.
Don Maristoon,
Yes.
Eric Lundmark,
Here.
Nancy Hagert,
Present.
Bruce Imholt is here. So great. We've got all Planning Commission members are present and accounted for. I thank you for that. One quick item for members of the public. The Planning Commission is a recommendation body, so anything discussed here tonight, however the vote goes, it will be discussed at the what's called the Community Development Committee meeting, which will be on November 9th at 5 o'clock. Again, that's, I don't know if we're going to be in person or just all virtual for that, but usually those meetings have been over at the Detroit Lakes Community Center. And then obviously November 10th is the City Council meeting at 5 o'clock where the final recommendations go to the City Council. So please keep that in mind. One other housekeeping item, if I can, quick for Planning Commission members. We're scheduling the November meeting for November 17th. I'm suggesting 5:15, but we have to confirm the time with the Detroit Lakes Community Center. So we'll confirm that with you sometime in the next week, I believe. With that, I would like approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 24th, 2020. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Yeah, I have a very small correction. This is Nancy.
Okay, Nancy Hager, go ahead.
Yeah, on page 6, there was a comment that I made, 6 of the 77, as far as living across the street from the people that wanted to put up the fence. It stated that I said I don't have any plants in my yard. What I said was I've been hit by the deer as well, and they have eaten most of my plants.
Okay.
Small
Without
item, but
No, without objection, we would add that correction to the minutes, Jen. So with that item, are there any other corrections or additions? If not, I would be looking for a motion for approval.
This is Eric. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Eric.
this is Nancy, I'll second.
Yeah, was the motion by Eric?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Eric Lundmark, second by Nancy Hagert. Again, a roll call vote. And as I stated, Liz, we're always going to start with you first. I hate to tell you, but that's the way it is.
And I vote yay.
Bob,
Yep.
Chris,
Yes.
Dan,
Aye.
Don,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Bruce, yes. Okay, thank you. All right, again, now we're going to come to this will be the interesting part of the meeting. Again, everybody, I would ask your patience and to bear with us, and hopefully we don't run into, we're knocking on this fake wood here and the desk I'm at, that we don't run into any technical difficulties. So as we get into the public hearings, they are public hearings. The way we want to approach this, first we'll have Larry Remen present on behalf of the city of Detroit Lakes the proposal. Then I would ask whoever's the applicant to step forward and just explain their proposal and add any comments they might want to add. Then again, it's a public hearing, so anyone out there can certainly comment. And I would encourage any comments. So we don't want to limit anybody, even with the virtual here. But once we get through the comments and the discussion, when I close the public hearing, then I'm going to limit the discussion to Planning Commission members unless they have a direct question that they may want to come back to one of the applicants to clarify, or obviously Larry will be able to help us with questions too. All right, thank you for that. And then again, I appreciate your patience on this. So the first item is a public hearing to give consideration to a variance to allow 13.61% landscaping at 1218 and 1234 Washington Avenue. That's the Midtown development. And before we get too far on that, I just looked across the street, Larry, and I noticed they got one of the buildings labeled 1212. So I don't know if that's a technical thing we need to worry about, but just please note that. I don't know if we have the right address on those. All right, Larry, if you could give us the rundown here, please.
Yes. This is a request from Midtown Development for 13.61% landscaping instead of the required 15% landscaping at their address. We have it of 1218 to 1234. I don't think the physical address is that important. If it's 1212, that's probably close enough. But that would be, I'll take that up with Steve Hansen and see what the address should be. The reason that they're requesting a variance is that after they got going with their project, they had some of their trenches that were going to be filled with landscape rock and plantings, but they discovered that the trenches were no longer big enough or had held enough volume of stormwater to satisfy the Pelican River Watershed District's requirements. And so with the changes that they've had to make, if you look at the plan that's up on the screen, the green and the pink are the areas that are going to be landscaped. It comes to 13.61%. They're short 806 square feet of landscaping. And if they would have been able to landscape where they wanted to, if you look on this next map, the dark gray bars were also areas that would have been part of their landscaping, and they would have exceeded the required landscaping. So now they've got stormwater treatment on the site and landscaping that would be at 13.61%. In order to consider a variance, the Planning Commission has to make findings, and staff has recommended that the following findings be considered. First, the variance is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, as the project will provide some landscaping on the site for aesthetics and also provide stormwater treatment. Two, the variance is consistent with the comprehensive plan, as it will allow a commercial use in a commercial district. Three, the proposal will put the property to use in a reasonable manner. As I mentioned, the original plan met the landscaping requirements. However, due to changes in stormwater treatment required by the Pelican River Watershed District, the stormwater treatment areas could not be filled with landscape rock. With this change, the project no longer met the 15% landscape requirement. Number four, the circumstances are unique to the property, as the original stormwater plan had landscaping that met the city's requirements. And number five, the variance will maintain the essential character of the locality, as the new project will provide stormwater treatment as required by our ordinance, and 13.61% landscape coverage where none existed prior to the development. I recommend approval of this variance request subject to the following condition. One, that the owner bring the property into compliance with the land disturbance permit and maintain all stormwater BMPs and comply with the stormwater management facilities maintenance agreement. I did receive a letter from the Pelican River Watershed District about an hour and a half ago requesting that we consider a condition requiring a new Pelican River Watershed District permit. They currently have a permit, but it apparently doesn't meet the Watershed District's requirements. I do feel that if the Watershed District wants them to provide an as-built application for a permit, that they have the legal right to do that. I'm not just sure that we should include a condition that isn't related to our ordinance requirements.
Would you read that letter, Larry, so we get the whole gist of it?
Yeah, just a second. I'll pull that up here.
Since we did not get that in our packet.
Well, yeah, I barely got it myself. And I'm having trouble getting my email here. Hold on. Jen, do you have that letter? Could you read that?
Is there anyone from the watershed that's on that has the letter in their possession? They could read it? Yeah, Kelsey, go ahead.
Yeah, Bruce, I can read it.
Go ahead, please.
This says, Dear Planning Commission members, on behalf of the Pelican River Watershed District, I offer the following comments regarding the variance. The applicant had included a landscape feature, a rock grate system on top of the stormwater treatment practice, which is the trench with an iron hand sand filter. However, after consulting with Andrew Erickson of the U of M Stormwater Research Center, he recommended to not use the rock landscape feature on top of the practice due to it impairing the function of the stormwater management practice, which is the phosphorus removal, and making it significantly more cumbersome to maintain the practice. The district approved a stormwater management permit for the site in 2018. However, the current as-built site does not comply with the district's 2018 permit. The district respectfully asks the commission to include as a conditional approval of variance an approved Pelican River Watershed District permit for the as-built site. Thank you for this opportunity to comment. Signed by Adam Mortensen from the Pelican River Watershed District.
Okay, thank you. And I guess if Planning Commission members have a comment or questions on that, we can come back to that. But at this point, I guess if someone from Midtown Development is on the line, if Jen could bring them in, then we could hear their comments or response here. Anyone on the line from Midtown? Okay, if not, I guess the question that I kind of got confused there, Larry, for a minute, and I'll open up to other public comment. I'm sorry, I forgot that there's other public. Is there anyone else from the public, otherwise from Midtown, other than Midtown Development? Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment on this variance for Washington Avenue for Midtown Development? Anyone else in the audience?
Yes, Bruce, Jim Booth is online here.
Oh, Jim, okay. You're representing Midtown Development, I assume, Jim. Hello? Jim,
There.
are you there?
Now you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can figure this technology out, right?
I hope.
Please go ahead, Jim.
All right, yeah, Jim Booth here representing Midtown Development. And I don't have a whole lot to add to what Larry said. He did a good job explaining the situation. I would just say, as many of you know, this has been, we're about 3.5 years in on this project. It's a long road, but we're really proud of what we've accomplished with this site, and we're desperately motivated to just get it across the finish line here. And this is one of the last things kind of hanging out there. And as Larry said, we've had a little confusion over the years. We felt a little bit of the rules have slid a little bit, and we've tried to comply. I think we had everything approved at one point. Things slid a little bit. We were out of compliance a little bit, and with those pits and a little bit of changing direction from Pelican River primarily. And the second thing is we tweaked a little bit on the very far northwest corner of the lot where we ran into a natural gas line where we had to tweak things a little bit. And we just got a little over 1% out of compliance there. But we really would respectfully request the commission's approval of this because we really don't have anywhere else to accommodate that extra 1.3% on the site. It's a very tight site. It's very complex. And I would just ask that, consideration be given to what Larry said, where prior to the development, there was really no stormwater mitigation or consideration on this site whatsoever prior to development. And we've got it really, really enhanced, and we're really proud of what we did, and really challenge our engineers to come up with a pretty very unique, cool system that they've never designed before that I think is going to really work well. We just respectfully request the approval of the commission.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And you may want to just stay available. So is there anybody, planning commission members or anyone else that might have a question of Jim and their proposal? If so, please raise your hand. Anyone have any questions? Jim, I've got a question for you. So, they've been doing construction along Washington Avenue along the front of the building there. If we were to grant this variance, one of the things, I've seen some of the plantings you've had, on the side of the building, some smaller bushes and stuff, and that's fine. I don't have any complaints about that. But could you put something a little more substantial along the front? I'm not talking about covering up your windows, but maybe as, between the windows, as you have those spaces there, I'm not suggesting trees, but just something that might break up the building along the street a little bit there, if you could start out with some 3-foot bushes that you can trim and manicure, and they can get to a height of about 4 or 5 feet, and, have a little color to along the street there. Is that something you guys would consider?
Yeah, I would say we would consider that, Bruce. I'm certainly, I'm a landscape loving kind of guy. I'm a tree hugger. I like that kind of stuff. On the other hand, we designed that to be, when we originally designed the building, we didn't know who the commercial tenants or occupants were going to be. And after the fact, Sanford wanted to lease the whole ground floor. You never know, 10 years from now, I might have 3 storefronts cut in there, and I might have coffee shops and hair salons and retailers, in which case I would probably have to cut that kind of landscape out that you said. That's not a big deal. We've done it before, but I would say, yeah, we would consider having a conversation about that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, well, I'd appreciate it. I mean, I've just been shopping for bushes at our office, and for about 75, 80 bucks, you can find something that's about 3 feet high, and I'm not talking about a tree.
Right.
You can get these, I don't know what Ginny calls them, but they're different kind of bushes that just kind of, they expand out. But I don't want you to cover up your windows. I understand you need that tree, but if you just would consider that to me would help break up just the whole sidewalk there of, so much pavement, because now that the street is in there, there's a lot of pavement from one end to the other.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And as long as nobody's else speaking up here, I do have a question, Kelsey. As you read the letter, I got a little confused from what Larry started out with. To me, the letter said the watershed just wants to come in compliance with the 2018 permit. They're not asking for something new, are they?
Bruce, as I look at the letter, it just says the district respectfully asks the commission to include as a condition of approval of variance an approved Pelican River Watershed District permit for the as-built site. So I don't know if they're looking for necessarily a new permit, just that it complies with, I guess, their 18 permit. But Larry, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it depends, I guess, on how you read it. The way I read it is that they wanted a new condition on our permit that said that they would be required to get an as-built permit from the watershed district, which seems like a bit of overreach.
And again, there's nobody from the watershed on.
We can certainly talk with the watershed district for clarification prior to the community development committee meeting.
If I may, this is Jim Booth speaking again, Bruce. And I'm not quite sure what that letter is about. A little surprising. I'm not overly concerned about it, but we were we've been very openly communicative with the Pelican River watershed, very open with them. And I was under the impression that they were comfortable and endorsing of this project and where it's at right now. So I honestly, I am also not quite sure what that letter means. I hate to have another layer of bureaucracy that's going to drag this on for a little bit, but I don't know, Larry, maybe it's not a big deal. I really don't know.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public? Jim, maybe just stay on a minute in case there's a question. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to comment on the variance at Midtown Development on Washington Avenue? Right now it's listed 1218 to 1234. Anyone else, please raise your hand or comment now. Okay, if not, I'm going to close the planning commission member, or I'm going to close the public hearing for this item, and with the provision that if anybody has further questions for Mr. Booth, they can certainly ask those. Again, planning commission members, are there any comments or questions that you have?
Bruce, this is Liz. I have a question of Jim.
Sure.
And Jim, I realize that nobody is on from More Engineering, but I think we're considering this because of the stormwater mitigation and the experimental side and the removal of the rock that was intended to go in the stormwater mitigation, correct?
Yes, that's the primary reason.
Okay. And at this point in time, if I'm hearing correctly, and Kelsey, feel free to correct me, but it sounds as if there have been changes in the stormwater mitigation at the direction of, or at the consultation of More Engineering in the Pelican River Watershed District. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So at this point in time, to understand what the Pelican Watershed District is asking us in that letter is probably a key point to make sure that we're meeting the stormwater mitigation permit that they had established, correct? That's my question. I'm sorry, in the end.
In this case, as far as the city is concerned, if they get this variance and comply with their land disturbance permit that they have with the city, they would meet all of our requirements. And we do know they have been working very closely with the Pelican River Watershed District to comply with all of their requirements. I'm not sure, I just got this letter at about 5 o'clock tonight, so I haven't had a chance to talk with the Watershed District to see what it is that they're asking. But it seems like if they wanted another permit from these people, they would be able to do that under their own rules and wouldn't need to have anything from our.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Larry.
Okay, so then part two, Larry, bear with me, sorry.
Yep.
Part two of my question then is, in our original permit to approve Midtown Development, we obviously had a condition that said to obtain a permit from the Pelican River Watershed District, correct? So would I say that we're in compliance and meeting our permit requirements as a result of that?
Yes, because they did in fact get a permit from the Watershed District.
Okay, thank you for your answering and hanging with me on that one.
Larry, yeah, this is Bruce. Liz brings up a good point. We don't have it in our packet here, but I think for CDC, you may want to make a note to have those original variance requests available. So I think Liz's point is that if we originally had a condition based on the watershed approval, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, but I think that's what you're asking, is that seems to still be in effect, correct?
That is correct what I'm asking, Bruce. Thank you.
This variance would not impact.
If there's planning commission members that want to hear those, those conditions now, we can have Larry dig those up. But otherwise, I know for sure you might maybe want to just have those for CDC. But does anybody on the planning commission want to hear those original conditions?
No.
Okay. All right, thanks, Liz. Does anybody else have any questions or comments from planning commission?
Yeah, I've got a question. This is Nancy.
Okay,
Because the landscaping that had been planned that we can't do now was to go over these trenches, as I understand they're trenches. I'm wondering about the look of the trenches and the safety of the trenches.
We have addressed the safety of the trenches. They have a steel grate over them so that cars can't go in there or people can't go in there.
Nancy, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thanks. I believe, I haven't been able to drive down there because you can't drive down that street.
Mhm.
But previously, I feel like there were chain link fence around it. I'm assuming that's no longer going to be there.
Correct.
That will not be there.
Okay, that's all. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the Planning Commission have any comments or questions? Okay, so just to summarize this, and Larry, again, you had one condition, and that's not in our packet, so I'm going to ask you to read that again so everybody understands what it is. But as regards to the watershed, we can move this forward with the one other condition that Larry has had on here. Obviously, if people want to move it forward, they would vote for that. If you don't want to move it forward, you wouldn't vote for it. We could also add a condition that we ask them to comply with the watershed's request, or if, as Larry suggested, if you are comfortable voting with it without the watershed letter and requirement right now, we would certainly ask them to clarify that before the Community Development Committee meeting in November. So those would be the options that I see, and if anybody else has any other suggestions, throw them out there. Otherwise, I would be looking for a motion here. And Larry, before we have the motion, please repeat your condition that you had.
Okay, the one condition that I recommended was that the owner bring the property into compliance with the land disturbance permit and maintain all stormwater BMPs and comply with the stormwater management facilities maintenance agreement.
And then I'm not asking this as a condition. I'm relying on your good faith, Jim, to take my request for some more than just a little bitty bush in the front.
All right, we'll see what we can do. And I would say I plan to be on site tomorrow at about 1:30 p.m. as an open invitation. If anyone wants to meet me there and walk the property, I'd be more than happy to take a walk with people.
All right. I will be in Twin Valley, but thank you for the offer. Okay, does anyone want to make a motion here?
This is Bob Luizo. I would make a motion to approve the variance request per the staff recommendation, along with Larry's additional condition. I think
Is there
we
a
should-
second to that motion?
I'll second that. This is Eric.
Motion by Bob Luizo, second by Eric Landmark. Okay, thank you. Bob, if you have further comments, no, go ahead now. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay, that's all right. My rationale is the information from the watershed district came so late that nobody's had a chance to clarify what the meaning of the request is. So I don't think it would be appropriate for the Planning Commission to act on that additional information without input from them directly.
Okay. Any other further comments on the motion? If not, I'm going to do a roll call. And the motion as presented by Bob, seconded by Eric, and with the condition mentioned by Larry. And so Liz, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Chris?
Aye.
Dan?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Bruce? Yes. All right. Thank you, Jim, and thank you for your investment in Detroit Lakes. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Yep, thank you. Again, Larry, if you might want to get a hold of somebody at the watershed, Adam or whoever, indicate to them that if they've got some issues, they need to be part of the meeting here, and that's a little disappointing that they weren't. And I will follow up also with that. All All right, on to the next item. Item B is public hearing to give consideration to a variance to allow a 16 by 16 foot storage shed in the front yard and a 6-foot high fence less than 30 feet from the road right away at 266 Shorewood Drive. Again, this will be a public hearing. So first we'll have Larry present the staff report, and then we'll have the applicant chime in. So Larry, please.
Okay, this is a request for an after-the-fact variance from Michael and Alicia Melhus for a 6-foot high fence with a 24-foot setback from the road right-of-way, and a variance for a 16 by 16-foot storage shed in their front yard. We feel that this variance is not needed as the applicant has a reasonable use of the property without the variance for the fence. The applicant could still construct a 3-foot high fence in this location, or a 4-foot high chain link fence in this location, or they could build a 6-foot high fence if it met the 30-foot setback, which means they would have to move it 6 feet. The second part of the variance request is for the 16 by 16-foot storage shed in the front yard. City ordinance no longer allows water-oriented accessory structures. The applicant did have an 8 by 10 shed that was about 7 feet tall, located next to the lot line about 30 feet from the shore. They would be able to rebuild that structure and maintain that structure indefinitely as state law allows that. In this case, the property owner demolished the structure and built a new 16 by 16 foot shed in a different location, and this was done without a building permit. The shed looks more like a guest house with the windows that it has in it, but it is a 16 by 16 foot shed. The recommendation of the staff is that the shed be removed and that a new structure, we recommend removal of the structure that was built, and also that the owner apply for a building permit to rebuild the 10 by 10, 8 by 10 shed that was allowed by state law. And I'm going to show you some pictures that were sent by the applicant. And you received all of this in your packet. So here's a picture. This is the site plan. It shows the area where the fence would be up towards the street, and it shows where the shed would be located. Here's a picture of the property. And here's the new shed on the property. This is a picture of the old shed that was there. And then here's a closer view of the new shed. This is showing the fence location. The fence is actually installed at this time. Here's another shot showing the fence on the other side of the property. Basically, the Planning Commission should consider the following findings with regard to this variance request. Number one, the variance is not in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, as it would allow construction of a 16 by 16 foot water-oriented accessory structure when our current ordinance does not permit such a use. It would also allow the expansion of a non-conforming use. Two, the variance is not consistent with the comprehensive plan, as it would allow a use that is not considered appropriate in a residential district in the shoreland. Number three, the proposal does not put the property to use in a reasonable manner, as the property owner has a reasonable use of the property without the variance. Allowing a 6 foot high fence where a 3 foot height is required is not reasonable. Also, it is not reasonable to allow a use that is not permitted by the ordinance. The owner has the ability to rebuild the small shed that was previously located on the property. Number four, circumstances related to the variance request are not unique to the property. There are many properties like this, and there is nothing unique which would require the variance that's being requested. Number five, The variance would not maintain the essential character of the neighborhood, as it would allow a 6-foot-high fence in an area where the height limit is 3 feet. And also the 16 by 16-foot storage shed creates a large visual impact as viewed from the lake and by the adjoining properties. I did get some letters and calls from people regarding this request. I received a call from a Dave.
Larry?
Yes.
So, no, and I want you to bring those in, but first, after your presentation, I want the applicant to have a chance to say something, and then we'll open it up to those letters and to other public comment. So, is there you're all done with your presentation, correct?
Yes.
Okay, is the applicant or anyone representing the applicant online at this time?
Say, Jen, can you move over Mike Melhus and Sam Roofer?
Okay, is there, so Mike, Mr. Melhus, if you're on the line, if you would want to give us some information on your application, we would appreciate that. We got anybody on there, Jen?
Hi, this is Sam Roofer. I'm on. I believe Mike Melhus is on as well.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there's
Yes,
Mike.
Mike Melhus speaking. Yeah, my wife and I bought the property in September of last fall. The existing shed that was there was basically, an eyesore. It was a rundown shed that was ready to fall into the lake. It failed the housing inspection. It was basically, an electrocution hazard and a collapse, basically just waiting to happen. It was poorly built. It was sitting up on some cinder blocks and basically rotting and falling apart. Along with electrical wires here, there. We have young kids and so forth. So, being new to the area, even just new when it comes to properties, when building and whatnot, we went right at it in the fall, and my uncle and I were trying to obviously make it a little bit safer, a little usable, and before we know it, to Larry's point, yeah, we just tore the whole thing down and hauled it away per, just based off the hazard that it was. As we started to, figure out what we were going to do with the existing property, the existing spot, we just simply didn't cross our I's, dot our T's. I'm not a contractor, construction. I guess I didn't realize all the legalese and things that go into some of these things. And yeah, it just turned into a 16 by 16 perfect square just because that was easy footings for us and made it a lot more just square and solid, so we didn't have to deal with it falling back. It is in the exact same location as the other shed. Larry had stated that it's been moved. It's slightly larger, but the shed hasn't been moved. It's in the spot that it was. Obviously, the footprint is slightly bigger. It's going to get utilized obviously in the same manner as the old shed. We keep, it's for kayaks and stuff from the boat, so we simply don't have to walk all the way up to the garage and stuff. Added the 2 windows, they just match the cabin. So if you're going by in a boat or something, rather than looking at a shed that's ready to get pushed over that had basically plywood walls, it matches the aesthetics of the cabin. It's well elevated. As you can see, it doesn't sit right next to the lake. It's, I don't know if that's a story, 2 stories up or whatnot, but from a visual impact standpoint, I mean, as you can see with the trees there's no visual impact to either neighbor. Both lines are both sides of my property are lined with trees. You couldn't see the old one from that property, which is, I believe, is on the west side. You certainly can't see it now. So there's any visual impact to either neighbor, and the visual impact from the lake. I mean, yeah, it's slightly larger, but it's certainly it certainly looks and feels and a lot better than what was previously sitting there that just looked like basically kind of a dumpster. So that's kind of in essence, how that shed came to be. As far as the fence goes, when we first bought the property, my wife and I have a couple of young kids. that fall, the kids are running around here, there, and everywhere. We didn't like it that they could just wander onto that busy road. The previous owner used to keep his boat lift and things like that kind of along the road there. And I had contacted Dakota Fence, I guess, I presume to try to get some privacy, because my goal is to, whether it's with a jet ski trailer or lifts that need to be moved because of the elevation, some of that stuff needs to be barged and then hauled to the front, rather than having some of those things sit just along the road. The goal was to put that privacy fence, allow enough room between my garage and the fence to be able to put some of those things. And if the lifts can then go in on the yard side closer to the house versus sitting directly along the road. If Larry scrolls down to the one aerial picture, you can see where the previous owner used to keep lifts. There's huge lifts that are 5-6 feet off the road. Certainly far more of a hazard than what the fence currently sits. I had no clue on the measurements when Dakota Fence came in to do the fence. I guess I presumed they had kind of crossed their I's, dotted their T's. I asked where I could or couldn't put the fence. I chose 11 feet from the garage was how it initially started to where we put the fence. Pure ignorance on that it needed to be a 30-foot setback and so forth. The 11 feet from the garage to the fence allows me to put in a trailer or lift there versus having it just parked across the road. So I've talked with Dakota Fence and so forth too. They were going to dig into some things at their end, but it makes the property quite a bit more usable. It's obviously a heck of a lot lot safer than it previously was as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Milhouse. And again, I would probably ask you to be available, and I'll ask for other public comment now, but in the meantime, is there any questions that Planning Commission members have for Mr. Milhouse? If not, Larry, you mentioned you had some letters, but first let's see if there's anybody online anybody in the public that's online that wishes to address the issue of this variance at 266 Shorewood Drive. Is there anyone online that wishes to discuss this?
Mr. Imhold, if I may just add a couple comments for Mr. Milhouse's project.
Go ahead, Sam. Yep.
Yeah, this is Sam Roofer, and I've been asked by Mike to kind of walk him through this process and help him with it. And as all of you know, I've been in front of this commission a number of times before, and have had various clients that have projects that they seek, and I'm careful about what I do with those too, because there's a little bit of the intent behind the person asking for it that I take into consideration. And I think Mike's sincere in what's going on here. He's new to the area. It was an inadvertent process on his part to construct this without kind of being aware of what needed to be done. And that being said, I do think that a structure like this certainly is not unique on Detroit Lake, on big or little Detroit. You see structures far larger than this. It certainly is not an eyesore. It doesn't stick out. It's not something that isn't in harmony with the rest of the structures on the lake. Yet, the project, if anything, improved what was there. It took down an eyesore of a structure that was a safety hazard and about to fall into the lake. And so by reconstructing this, I think he did a really good job of improving the character of his property in the neighborhood. The fence, it's a little bit interesting. I looked through at some of the other applications here tonight, and there's another fence application. I think it's 3D on the agenda, perhaps, where the city staff has stated that the intent of the ordinance with regards to a 6-foot fence has to do with traffic and sightlines. Well, here and in that one, they recommend allowing a 6-foot fence because it has no impact on traffic or sightlines. And here, same thing. If that's the intent of the variance to, be for safety, be for improving sightlines, not interfering with traffic, there's absolutely no problem with Mr. Milhouse's requested fence and in the location it's at. And I think, as he indicated, by putting that fence up and keeping his dock and lift and other equipment there, as opposed to dragging it on the right of way of the surface, it actually would improve safety and help out. So I think if the standard is as is stated in the other application here tonight, then I think Mr. Malhus's proposed fence certainly meets that standard. I think his shed meets the requirements as well, and would respectfully request that the committee approve his variance or recommend approval.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Again, I know Larry has some letters and stuff, but in the meantime, I'm going to give priority first to anybody that might be online that wishes to address this issue. So is there anyone in the audience that's online right now that wants to discuss the issue other than Planning Commission members at 266 Shorewood Drive?
Say, Bruce, we promoted a Wayne who's online. You want to make a comment?
Yeah, Wayne, could you identify yourself and your address, please? Wayne?
You need to unmute Wayne.
You got that mute button off, Wayne, over on the left-hand side. Hello? I guess until Wayne figures out how we get him on. Larry, why don't you go ahead and I don't think any of the Planning Commission members have any of these letters. So I guess if they're not too lengthy, let's have them read them into the minutes. If they are lengthy, then maybe you can summarize them.
Not lengthy.
Go ahead. Wait a minute. I think we have Wayne on. Wayne, can you state your name and your address, please?
Hey, this isn't Wayne, but I'm at Wayne's house. This is Brad Cook. And I live at 198 Shorewood Drive. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I'm just doing this about this permit or this variance, is that I've asked to put a shed in my house, a Rubbermaid from Sam's Club, and I couldn't do it without doing the proper paperwork. I probably wouldn't be able to do it then. So I'm just wondering how this could be that this guy built a shed that looks like a cabin. They put up a fence before you get the proper paperwork. That's my question.
Sure. Thanks, Wayne. And I think that's what
Brad.
Why the issue's on the agenda tonight. Brad, are you also want to identify yourself?
I'm Brad Cook, next door neighbor to Wayne, 198 Shorewood Drive.
Okay.
And that's what I just said. I just made that comment about I'm trying to put a shed up in my house, either across the street of Wayne's or in my own yard, but I couldn't get it without the proper permits or the variances or building permits for a plastic Rubbermaid shed. And
no, I think we got your comment there. I thought you identified yourself as Wayne. So this is Brad Cook at 198 Shorewood Drive.
Yeah, next door. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I'm Wayne. I'm Wayne Taylor here.
Wayne. Okay, there we go. There's Wayne. Yeah. Please identify
This-
yourself, Wayne, and your address, please.
Wayne Taylor, 192 Shorewood Drive.
Okay.
There's so much of this going on in Detroit Lakes. I don't see why, if he's going to build that there, I want one. It's build it and then ask for permission.
Exactly.
It's gone on in this neighborhood for a long time. And generally once they build it, if it's a house, the council just says, okay, it's already built, let's leave it. I have fences up next to me that don't meet the code. And it's just do it. You guys do what you see fit, but I love Detroit Lakes. And you guys are the stewards of the cities, so just do what's right.
All right. Thank you for your comments, Wayne. Again, is there anyone else online before I have Larry read the letters that he has? Is there anyone else online that wishes to comment on this issue?
Can I speak again?
And this is Mike.
Malhus?
Yep. Go ahead, Mike. Try to keep it concise if you would, please.
Yep, I certainly would. The shed, that's replacing an existing shed. This isn't something where there was nothing there, and I'm certainly trying to put something up that wasn't previously there. That's not a cabin. The only thing, the structure's there, and there's the existing electrical was there, but that certainly isn't a guest house. There isn't any plumbing, any water down there. There was originally some electrical for an outdoor light and electrical for the pump that comes from the water for the sprinkler system. So this isn't by any means a cabin and whatnot. That, you know, I love Detroit Lakes as well. I think we all love Detroit Lakes. That's why we're all sitting here today, and that's why we have our properties and so forth. But you know,
I want to talk to him.
that certainly isn't a cabin.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Again, anyone else on the line that would wish to comment on this issue? Otherwise, I'm going to ask, and if we miss you, certainly we'll come back and ask one more time. So at this time, Larry, why don't you go ahead and please identify the people who wrote the letter and their address, if you would.
Yes. Well, the first one was a phone call I got from Dave Jellison at 272 Shorewood Drive, and he indicated that he was okay with the variance. The next letter was from a Julie Raphael, and she says, as a resident of Shorewood Drive, I'm against allowing a variance to the Mel House property at 266 Shorewood Drive. The new structure was built without a building permit and is not in compliance with the city ordinances. The 6-foot high fence is not in compliance and should meet the required 30-foot setback from the road right of way. We have city ordinance for a reason and they should be followed. And then the last letter I have is from
Larry, excuse me, just a minute. What was Julie's address again?
Didn't list that. You'll get that.
Okay, go ahead, please.
The next one is Carol Berggren at 380 Shorewood Drive. I would like to express my concerns on the shed and fence that have been constructed at 266 Shorewood Drive. We've had other issues on Shorewood Drive where residents do their construction and apply for a variance later. To allow this shed/guest house to remain is setting a precedent that I don't think the city wants.
Any others, Larry? Okay,
That's
thank
it.
you. All right, again, before I close the public hearing, any other final comments from anyone else online, anyone that's been on? If you have one last comment, you're welcome to say so, but is there anybody new on that we maybe haven't got to yet? Anybody else wish to address the issue of 266 Shorewood Drive? If not, I'd ask you to mute yourself if you are online and you don't have anything to say. Please mute yourself if you would.
Bruce, Wayne Taylor would like to speak again.
Sure, go ahead, Wayne.
I think everything looks fine, what he has there. That's not the issue that I'm it's just that the variances are there for a reason. And I think the shed looks nice and I think the fence looks nice, but it's just everybody else has to, not everybody else, but most people have to go by the codes.
Me.
All right, thank you, Wayne.
Hey, Mr. Impola? Brad Cook again.
Brad, okay.
Well, that so-called shed is, I don't know, if you have windows in it and they got doors in it, I mean, service doors, I mean, not big doors that open up for tractors or whatever, your lawnmowers. I mean, it's not a shed. I mean, come on. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Brad. All right, again, I think with the provision that if planning commission members have questions for the applicant, I'm going to close the public hearing. And at this point, open it up for comments or questions by planning commission members. Please, if you unmute yourself and if you're on the planning commission, identify who you are so we can make sure Jen gets it in the minutes. Any planning commission members have any comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Nancy. I've got a question for you, Larry. In
Yes.
the impervious surface calculations that this landowner sent in, the impervious surface was 22.8. Is he in compliance with the amount of impervious surface that he's allowed?
Required impervious surface limit is 25%.
Okay.
I do have a couple of comments regarding some of the things that Mr. Roofer said. First, he said that this improves the look of the property, which that may or may be not be, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess. He also said it's not unusual for lake lots to have storage buildings of this size. And I don't dispute that. What I do dispute, though, is that the applicant hasn't shown that he has a practical difficulty that requires the variance. He has a reasonable use of the property without it. I would also point out that Mr. Melhus did discuss his plans with me previously. I think it was probably back when he was going to buy the property. And he was informed of what the rules are, that state law does allow replacement of the existing structure, but replacement means the exact same size of shed in the exact same location. And he was also informed that he needed a permit before he did any of those things. So I'm quite surprised that we're here tonight with this. And I have had people talk to me about this issue, and they feel that if we go ahead and approve these after the fact variances, we're just telling people, go ahead and build it because you have a better chance of getting your variance approved after the fact. And so that's a good way to get what you want, is just go ahead and do it and then request the variance. It's really unfortunate, and I think that staff denies the variance request or recommends denial of the request because they don't meet the criteria for granting the variance. And the applicant hasn't shown a practical difficulty to justify the variance.
Larry, this is Bruce. I have a question for you just to, I think, confirm what you just said. So the original 8x10 structure was in the shore impact zone, correct?
It was about 30 feet back from the lake, so yes, it would have been in the shore impact zone.
And again, based on our shoreland ordinance that we redid, it took us 2.5 years to redo, but based on that, the applicant would have been able to rebuild the 8x10 in the shore impact zone. So even if it was an ugly looking deficient structure, you could rebuild an 8x10 structure in that exact same footprint. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. State law allows that.
Okay. So the new shed would be if someone was coming to request to build a 16, but whether it was an existing structure, a new structure, to build a 16x16 in the shore impact zone, typically our shoreland ordinance, unless it's an existing footprint, would not allow that. Is that correct?
That is correct. Our ordinance would not allow any accessory structure in the front yard.
The measurements, this is Mike Mellis again. The measurements I had on it initially was it was a 10x12.
Well, we have an aerial photo from 2017 that shows, if you scale it off, to be 8x10. And the records at the county courthouse list that structure as an 8x10.
Okay, anyone else in the Planning Commission have any comments or questions at this time? Comments or questions from Planning Commission members only, please. If not, I guess, again, the staff recommendation is to deny the variance. So I'd either be looking for a motion to deny the variance, a motion to approve the variance.
This is Nancy Haggart.
Yes.
I would move to deny the variance. I think that we need to stop this getting permission.
Yeah, no, wait a minute. You make the motion, then you can make a comment. So I have a motion to deny the variance. I need a second to that motion first.
I'll second that motion, Don Marstoon.
Okay, second, motion by Nancy, second by Don. Sorry to cut you off, Nancy, but now you can make your comments.
Yeah, I'm just a big supporter of what Larry said, that we have got to stop asking forgiveness to people that just go ahead and don't find out the rules. I'm sorry, Mr. Melhus didn't look into what the rules were, but we have to be consistent with what our plan is. Thank you.
Okay. Any other?
Yes, with regard to the fence variance, we
Yes.
did just deny a fence variance like this for Mary Persons at 1158 South Shore Drive. We required that she build her 6-foot high fence 30 feet back. And that was just last month.
Okay, anyone else in the Planning Commission have any comments before I call for the vote? Anyone else? Okay, I will call a roll call vote again in the same order we've been doing it, so be prepared for that. The motion is to deny the variance. How do you vote, Liz Foster? Anderson?
Vote yes to deny the variance.
Bob Luizo?
Aye.
Chris Nord?
Aye.
Dan Wenner?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Imholt, yes. Okay, so the motion to deny the variance passes. Again, Mr. Melhouse and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but Mr. Melhouse and Stam Roofer, this issue will come to the Community Development Committee. I believe it's 5 o'clock on November 9th. You're welcome to bring your request to the commission at that, or the committee at that time. Thank you. All right, we're on to item C. Public hearing to give consideration to a variance to allow 343 parking spaces instead of the required 408, and a waiver of payment in lieu of spaces to allow a future lot development at 1305 Highway 10 West. Larry?
Yes, this is a request from the Boys and Girls Club thrift store. They're asking for a parking variance. They would have 343 parking spaces on their site instead of the required 408 spaces. This would allow them to split off a 2.24 acre site for an Aldi's grocery store. They're also requesting a waiver of the $2,500 payment in lieu of parking spaces fee. I should note that the Aldi's site would meet the parking requirements, and the combined site of the Boys and Girls Club's thrift store and the adjacent 8,000 square foot building requires 444 parking spaces and will provide 456 parking spaces through a cross-access easement. So even though we're technically requiring a variance for the Boys and Girls Club thrift store site, in reality, they will meet all of the parking requirements by having a cross-access easement with the 8,000 square foot retail store that's next door to them. Also, the Boys and Girls Club thrift store is not going to generate the same amount of traffic that a Kmart generates or generated. And so that's another reason why the variance would make sense. But the practical reality is that they would meet all of the parking requirements necessary on site. So
Larry, before I go to the applicant, can you refresh the Planning Commission and the public online this waiver of payment? Can you indicate what the original intent of the parking fee waiver was? And
the intent of the parking fee waiver or payment in lieu of parking spaces is to provide funds for the city to create parking more in the central business district. So it wasn't necessarily designed for these business areas outside of the central business district. And also, since they are providing adequate parking through a cross-access easement, there's another reason to waive that parking fee. And we're also redeveloping a big box store. So I think that there's justification for, on several counts, for waiving that parking fee.
all right, thank you. And so at this time, is there someone from either the Boys and Girls Club or Aldi or whoever might be the applicant here that would like to present on behalf of the applicant? Anyone online for that?
Bruce, Scott Walls is on the call. I'm guessing he'll speak to the application.
Oh, we always love to hear from Scott.
Glad to hear from you too, Bruce. Yeah, I'm here with Scott Busker from the thrift store. Larry did a very good job of presenting what exactly is going on here. As he said, the whole campus, if you will be in excess of 12 spaces for the ordinances. So like he said, I think that alone is justification for waiving the $2,500 per space fee. Scott did have the thrift store put together some data for traffic counts that they have inside their store, and they went back to 2017, and which was back at their old site, but even at the new site, their maximum peak number of customers in any given hour is about 47. Obviously, they're hoping that that'll grow as they continue to be in this site, but and then when you mix in usually approximately about a dozen employees, they really only need about 60 spaces, which is significantly less than the 343 that they have. So like Larry said, with their use isn't the same as the Kmart use. It's just a giant building that's requiring these number of parking spaces. So I think there's good justification for it. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, Scott, this is Bruce. I have a question. I'm looking at the site plan here. Is there any provision in there for some interior landscaping? The picture I'm looking at doesn't appear to have any landscaping on it.
The Aldi site has the interior landscaping and meets the interior landscaping requirement. The old Sears site, when they redevelop that area and create new parking, we'll also add interior landscaping. They weren't planning on redoing the entire parking lot and adding that to the entire Kmart parking lot. So no, they don't have anything on the thrift store site itself, but the other two sites do.
Okay, Larry, if we end, whatever we end up voting on this, I don't see any provision for meeting the landscaping requirements. Is that something?
Well, typically, unless there's new construction going on, they aren't required to meet the landscaping requirements. So in the two locations where there is some construction going on, the Aldi's site and the former Sears store, they will construct that and meet the on-site landscaping requirements. But where they're not doing any reconstruction of the parking lot on the Boys and Girls Club site, they would not be required to meet that requirement.
Right. So you're missing my question. They're
Okay.
putting a new construction up, Aldi. So is Aldi going to be required to meet landscaping requirements?
Yes, Aldi is required to meet the landscaping, and they do.
And they do.
Based on the plan that they have.
Okay, yeah, because I'm not seeing that on this. I understand that's not relevant to the request for the parking variance necessarily, but I want to make sure that when we do these, and just so people on the planning commission, the public know, this has been a passion of mine since we put this in, 15 years ago. And one of the reasons is because when you drive by the doggone Walmart parking lot, all you see is pavement. And I don't think that should represent what our city looks like. So I want to make sure when we have new construction that we have this landscaping requirement. One of the issues was with Midtown was, we gave them a variance for the landscaping. So I'm just making sure, Larry, that there is the landscaping provision is being met by somebody before I vote on this.
Yes, the Aldi site will meet the landscape requirement.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else out there I'm sorry I took my time to comment during the public meeting, but anyone else here on this that wants to address the issue of the parking variance for the Boys and Girls Club? Anyone else online that would like to comment?
Bruce, this is Liz. Can I ask a question of Scott or possibly Larry?
Please do.
My question is, I see that there's a proposed expansion plan in the Aldi's building, and it looks like it's approximately 3,000 square feet. When we were doing the parking lot calculations, Larry, did we take into consideration that proposed expansion as well?
Proposed expansion, repeat that again. I missed the first part of your comment.
Sorry.
Larry, so I can answer that. Yes, I don't know if Larry's site plan, you can't really see it because it's so small, but in the lower right-hand corner, there's the summary of all the parking spaces. So all three buildings, the parking calculations are there for all three, for the two existing buildings and also for the proposed Aldi's building.
And that also, Scott, includes, I did expand my Zoom and was looking at it. So that does include the proposed expansion too as well, correct?
Oh, the proposed for future expansion for Aldi's if this all got built, that I don't know. All these engineers did all these calculations in the site plan. From what I'm looking at here.
Scott?
Yep.
The Aldi plan currently exceeds the required amount of parking. So they would have enough room for that addition.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
Okay. Anyone else, whether planning commission or otherwise, that's online that either has a question or a comment regarding the parking variance for the Boys and Girls Club? Anyone else? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, which I'm doing now, Jen, and again, open it up either to a motion or to any further comments or questions from planning commission members.
Say, Bruce, could I just interject just for a minute? Larry
Please.
did have some recommended conditions. I don't know if we've discussed those yet.
Let's talk about that. Based on the findings of fact in your staff report, I'm recommending approval of the variance subject to the following conditions. 1, that the lots be split as shown on the approved site plan. 2, that the owners provide a perpetual cross-access easement among all these parcels, and this be recorded at the same time as the lot division takes place. And 3, that the 51 additional parking spaces, as shown on the site plan, be constructed by November 10th, 2021.
Larry, do we, if you're recommending a waiver of the fee, do we want that as one of the conditions also or not?
We would list that as part of the variance, that we are waiving the fee as part of the variance.
Gotcha. Okay. That's assuming that people want to waive the fee. I guess I don't want to jump ahead here. So, okay, is there anybody that wants to comment or wants to make a motion on this item?
Bruce, this is Bob Louisa. I'd make a motion to approve it.
Subject to the
Recommendations.
conditions that Larry mentioned?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that. Chris?
Chris, thank you. Chris? All right, comment?
Bruce, is it all right if I interject something quick?
Go ahead, Scott.
The cross-access easement that Larry is referencing, the intent was for a cross-access easement between the Sears building and the thrift store building. I don't know that Aldi's is agreeable for a cross-access easement into their parking stalls. They meet all their requirements. They don't need any from the thrift store, and I don't know that they'd be agreeable to give them.
Okay, I'm okay with that being just a cross-access easement between the Boys and Girls Club and the Sears store, since that's where the number of parking stalls comes from, because Aldi's does stand on its own.
Bob and Chris, are you okay with that clarification on the motion?
This is Bob. Yes, I am.
This is Chris. Yes, I am too.
Okay, let's make sure then in the motion, Larry, when it comes to council, you've got that clarified, if you would, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott, for bringing that up. Any other comments from Planning Commission members? Okay, we're going to take a vote. Call a question here. How do you vote, Liz?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Eric? Eric, are you there?
Aye.
Thank you. Nancy?
Aye.
Imholt, aye. All right, thank you, and thank Aldi for, good luck to the Boys and Girls Club, and we thank Aldi for coming to town.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to item D. Public hearing to give consideration to a variance to allow a 6-foot fence in the side yard next to the road at 810 State Street West. Larry?
Yes, this is a request from Aaron Colby for a fence in the side yard right along the property line along the Home Street extension to allow a 6-foot high wooden fence. He was inadvertently issued a building permit for this fence, as it was noted that it was a replacement of an existing fence, but in fact, it's quite a distance from the existing fence. But be that as it may, staff, I am recommending approval of the variance that he is requesting. And basically, this would be to allow a 6-foot high fence similar to the one that Ben Grimsley has. So he's requesting a 6-foot high privacy fence adjacent to Home Street. There are similar fences along the street south of 810 State Street, and consideration should be given to the following findings of fact. Number one, the variance is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, as it will allow a privacy fence that will not impair the safe use of the street and will not impede sight lines. Number two, the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan, as it will allow use common in residential areas. Three, the proposal will put the property to use in a reasonable manner, as it will match the fence that is already in place to the south. The intent of the ordinance is to keep clean sight lines at intersections. However, since State Street is a dead end that does not connect to Home Street, there is no intersection here, even though this is a corner lot. There are circumstances unique to the property, as it is on a dead end street. And five, the variance will maintain the essential character of the neighborhood by allowing a fence similar to ones already in place along this street. I'm recommending approval of the requested variance subject to the following condition: that the fence height be reduced to 3 feet within 20 feet of the intersection of the northerly and westerly lot lines. And the reason for that is that the neighbor to the north has a driveway that comes very close to the property line there, and we want to ensure that they have clear sight lines for pulling out onto the public street.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Is Mr. Colby online, or anyone representing the applicant online that wishes to address this issue? If not, is there anyone else in the public that would wish to comment?
Bruce, I believe Aaron Colby is on the line.
Well, Mr. Colby, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last question for me? I was trying to figure out how to unmute this.
Yeah.
Recommending approval of the variance, but we're asking that for the northerly 20 feet, you drop the height of the fence down to 3 feet.
Is it possible, if I already have the approval of my other neighbor, whose name is Aaron as well, if he is okay with the 6-foot fence going all the way up to the edge of the corner lot?
That would be
have it,
that would be a decision for the planning commission to make.
And so just to clarify, I'm sorry, because there was a little bit of feedback on my machine. I don't know if there was anybody else. This is Mr. Aaron Colby online, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay. So besides the comment you had there, Mr. Colby, anything else you want to let the planning commission know about your request?
No, just that everything has already been purchased because I was already approved. And yeah, Larry's pretty much covered everything. So I just wanted to make sure you guys know that I'm here and I'm listening and participating.
Great, thank you. Okay, before, and there may be questions we might have for you, Aaron, but if you want to just stay available. Is there anyone else in the public? Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to comment on this issue for the
I'd have a question. I'd have a comment. I mean, this is Mike Melhus again. Obviously, we just went through my variance denial. I mean, if we're going to be consistent with some of these 6-foot fences and all their work. I mean, simply getting neighbors' approval and so forth. Obviously, I couldn't go get my neighbor on each side's approval and all of a sudden get some of these projects passed and so forth. So we're back to the same 6-foot fence that we just dealt with, and not totally dissimilar here either. And you know, we're talking 5 feet on mine versus what this is. And you know, I would tell you, I think this is great. You should let his fence be, but you know, I'd also, you know, try to stay consistent to what we're doing here. Even Sam brought up the fact that here, two down on the agenda, we got the same 6-foot fence. It's, making things safer, keeping things away from public roadways and so forth. And, here we are again where the recommendation is to approve it where, 30 minutes ago, we just denied one.
Sure. Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else on the line that wishes to comment on the variance to allow a 6-foot fence in the side yard at 810 State Street West? Anyone else?
I'd like to comment.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
This is Aaron Culber. I'd be the neighbor to Aaron Colby of the north, or his northern neighbor, the one with the driveway that you guys are concerned about.
Okay.
The way I see it, I don't have an issue with his fence. Looking at his posts, and he's explained to me what he has planned, and I don't have an issue with his fence. I don't think it's going to interfere terribly much with my view. Yeah, I guess that's what I have to say. Privacy fence would be good there. It would match Grim's leaves, and that's about what I have to say for that.
Sure. Thank you, Aaron. Anyone else online that wishes to comment on this issue for the fence at 810 State Street West? Anyone else? Larry, did you get any letters or anything on this?
I have nothing on this.
Okay. Larry, as long as the comment was brought up, explain why you believe that this variance is unique and different to this property as opposed to the previous one that Mr. Melhouse just raised the issue. What's the difference?
The difference is that this isn't a lake property for one thing. It's a quasi corner lot that really isn't a corner lot. And so normally, because it's a corner lot, it's required to have the lower fence. But since this street doesn't tie into that, it's not an intersection. And so we don't have the issues with the sight lines that we would normally have with a lot of this nature. So we treat each property separately and individually, and that's what's unique about Aaron Colby's property, is that it's technically a corner lot that really isn't a corner lot. And so that's the unique circumstance that he's dealing with that doesn't show up at the Melhouse property.
This is Aaron Culber again, if I may add. Looking at the street and how it is, I'm the only primary driveway on the street. So I'd be the only one that it really is affecting, as Larry Bremen has just stated. So and like I said, Aaron went over with the plans with me, and I am okay with his fence.
Okay, anyone else in the public that wishes to comment on this before I close the public hearing? Anyone else out there? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up to comments or questions by the Planning Commission members. Anyone on the Planning Commission have any comments or questions? Yeah, my comment would be, I guess everybody knows how I feel about fences in general. I think they do anyway. I think Mr. Colbert, why Larry's probably suggesting the decrease to 3 feet is just obviously if you end up selling your property at some time, and I guess maybe that affects the value of your property, that's up to you, but somebody else may, once we grant the variance, it's a permanent thing and it stays with the property then forever. So if you sell the property, somebody else may move in there and not like the fact that it has a fence there. But I'm probably going to more highlight the fact that, and I happen to agree with Mr. Melhouse on this, in the fact that, you know, one of the things I've commented before is when we talk about similar fences or similar things that have happened around the city on variances, we then go back and use that as a standard to allow a variance, you know, for another piece of property. In other words, because we've already granted a variance, now it's not unique because Mr. Grimsley has a 6-foot fence. So this fence here is not unique to the area. And I guess I disagree with that reasoning, but that's nothing new to any of you that have heard me say that before. to me, if the purpose of the fence is to, to keep the kids or the traffic away, I think a 3 or 4 foot fence is adequate to do that, or dogs or whatever. So I'm against a 6 foot fence, and therefore I will be voting no on this one if there in fact is a motion to approve it.
Bruce, I have a question for Mr. Colby.
Yes.
Mr. Colby, this is Liz Foster. When you originally went in for your permit in July, were you under the assumption that you could build the 6 foot fence, or were you told that you should be building a 3 foot fence at that time?
In my application that I had filled out, I said I wanted to put a 6 foot privacy fence along Home Street, the length of my property, and which we only have limited tools to draw the fence line of the property. But when I went in, I was approved for it by Larry, and then it just happened that I had Patricia on my property because I was having her check something else, and I asked her to make sure that my fence was properly the right amount of distance, like according to our plans from the road, which she said it was. And then she said she wanted to double check something because something was skewed on one of her papers. And then when she called Larry, Larry had, he said, well, you can't actually put that fence there because it was a corner, technically a corner lot, but not actually a corner lot because I'm on a dead end. So I was approved and I had started the fence, and then it was going to be denied no matter what, even if I built it exactly like the plan that has been approved. So I guess that would be my issue on that.
Thank you, Mr. Colby. I do have a follow-up question to it.
Yes.
Are you building a 6 foot fence for noise reasons, or are you building, what are the reasons?
Well, I had several reasons why we are building the fence. Initially, we want to do it for safety for our kids and our dog so that he wouldn't be trying to get out by any means. And then I do have a large amount of people that throw garbage and litter towards my property lot that I notice a lot. And I pick that up every week before I have to mow. And then we are in the process of also trying to get ready to file for a chicken permit so we could have chickens on our lot. But technically for the chicken permit, we cannot have our chickens if they're visible from the road. So I'd like to put up a 6 foot privacy fence to shield the chickens from the road so people don't notice them.
Thank you, Mr. Colby, for the follow-up.
You're welcome.
Can I just add something? Sorry, I'm Amber Colby. I'm Aaron's wife. I would also like to add that our yard has quite a downward slope to it. So with a 3 foot fence, with that busy road right there, you would still be able to see the majority of our yard just because our yard does slope down quite a bit right there. So a 6 foot, that's another reason we were kind of hoping for a 6 foot fence, was just for privacy reasons for our son, just because it is such a busy road.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from Planning Commission? Now, I did close a public meeting, so let's try to, if we can, keep it to Planning Commission members. Anyone else? If you do have a question for the applicant, that's fine. Please ask it.
So Bruce, Dan Winter here.
Yes, Dan.
It would seem to me that this request is exactly the reason that we do provide for variances to our ordinance for things including fences. I mean, we're talking about a corner lot that's not a corner lot. That certainly is no fault of the landowner. We're talking about a property that slopes down from the road. Again, a unique circumstance to the property, creating a hardship. I'd recommend approval of this because there's enough unique circumstances to this property that warrant it. And I'd say the only drawback to this whole thing is everybody knows how I feel about chickens. So, but
What?
I'm going to support this fence anyway. So, Okay, that's all I have to say.
Now, Dan, that's great that you bring that up. You're against the chickens, but you're in favor of the fence. I'm actually was gonna tell Amber, I'm happy they're raising the chickens. I'm in favor that somebody's doing the chickens. But to me, and I understand what you said, Dan, I'm not disputing that, but I would prefer that, if you want the privacy and you want to hide the chickens and hide your yard, as you know, I'm a proponent of saying, instead of a fence, put up a nice string of lilac bushes or other landscaping along there, along with a 3-foot fence, and you got all the privacy you want. So you're against the chickens, in favor of the fence. I'm against the fence, but in favor of the chickens.
There you go.
Anyone else in the planning commission have any comments or questions?
I have a question for Larry. Larry,
is this Bob?
This is Bob, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, this is Bob. The road, State Street, currently doesn't connect to homes in that section, but does the right-of-way extend all the way to the right-of-way of homes?
Right-of-way extends all the way to the right-of-way of homes, but it's the city's intent to not connect that because they're trying to keep that clear of intersections.
Okay, that's the current position of the city. That could change. I'm wondering about that corner of the fence. If you have a 6-foot high fence there, that's permitted and in place, and there's a determination they need to extend State Street for some reason, it would seem to me that the prudent thing to do would be to at least put an angle on that corner of the fence so that there would be sufficient line of sight to meet the requirement if the road ever was opened up. I mean, we don't know what future councils will want to do or what future developments will require, and so I would hate to see.
Suggest that we add a condition. I would suggest that we add a condition that if State Street is in fact put through and connected, that they then have to reduce the height of that fence to 3 feet, back 20 feet from the intersection.
Larry, we're having a little, I don't know if anybody else is having this trouble. There's a little feedback on what you just said there. I wonder if there's a way to.
Yeah, I'll turn my volume down a little. Turned it up to hear Bob. So, what I'm suggesting is that we put a condition in that if State Street is ever put through, that we would require the fence to be reduced to 3 feet high within 20 feet of that intersection.
Did everybody hear that?
I did, yes.
Yeah, I could make it out.
Yes, I could.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Bob, for the question. Anybody else have any comments or questions from the Planning Commission? If not, I'd be looking for some type of motion here.
Yep. So Bruce, this is Dan Winter, and I am going to move to approve the variance, but with the condition that Larry recommended that the fence be reduced to 3 feet at the when it gets close to the neighbor's property. And then I want to add on Bob's condition where the fence be moved back if the city on that corner, if the city should ever decide to open up State Street. That's my motion.
Motion by Dan Winter. Is there a second?
This is Bob. I would second Dan's.
Second by Bob Louisa. Thank you. Okay, so is there discussion on the motion? Again, maybe if we can just read the motion is to approve the variance subject to the condition of the fence height be reduced to 3 feet within 20 feet of the intersection of the northerly and westerly lot lines, and that if State Street is extended, the homeowner must reduce the height to 3 feet in that corner. Am I reading that correct, guys?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, everybody understand the motion?
Correct.
Any further comments? I will call the roll. Liz?
I vote aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Imholt, no, but go Chickens. All right, thank you, folks. And again, if you want to, this will be discussed on the Community Development Committee meeting. If you want to attend that, you're welcome to do so. Thank you. All right, we're on to item E.
Bruce.
Yes, sorry.
Can I have Larry check his mic here one more time?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yes.
Thank you.
How does this sound?
Not
Not
good.
good. I hate to do this, Larry, but you might have to disconnect and try to reconnect.
Okay. Is this any better? I turned the mic up.
No, not to me, it isn't.
Okay. We'll see you later.
Was he going to reconnect again, Kelsey? Was that the plan?
I hope so.
Okay. Otherwise, if not, you might be prepared to introduce us to this next item. See, Dan, it figures that the first chicken permit would be in the first ward there too, by the way.
I figured it would be right next to my house. So,
All right, well, if Larry is not joining us, I know we have people on the line here, and I don't want to keep everybody too long. Kelsey, could you at least introduce the item E for us, please?
Sure. Planning Commission, actually, Jen, is there any way you can allow me to present? Oh, I can do it. Hold on. All right, you should be able to see my screen. Bruce, you can see that, correct?
Yes, correct. Go ahead, Kelsey. Thank you.
We have an application for a variance from Robert Strand located 875 Willow Springs Road. I'm gonna go to the site plan. Mr. Strand's house is located on a corner lot. And with it being on a corner lot, he has a 30-foot front yard setback and a 20-foot side yard setback. And what Mr. Strand's proposing to build is a 32 by 40 garage. And obviously with the setback requirement, he's seeking a variance from a 20-foot setback, side yard setback to a 3-foot side yard setback. Larry, you're back on. Do you want to?
Can you hear me? Do I sound better?
You sound great now. Thank you.
Okay, good. So basically, as Kelsey was telling you, Mr. Strand would normally be required to have a 20-foot side yard setback. He's asking for a 3-foot side yard setback so that he can construct a 32 by 40 foot accessory structure. You should consider the following findings. First, the variance is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, as it will not negatively impact the use of the road or affect the orderly development of the adjacent property. 2, the variance is consistent with the comprehensive plan as it will allow a residential accessory use in a residential district. 3, the proposal will put the property to use in a reasonable manner as it will allow an accessory use common to residential districts. It will also improve the aesthetics of the neighborhood as more items will be stored inside. 4, the circumstances are unique to the property as the buildable area on the lot is restricted by setbacks, building location, septic system drain fields, and a high water table. And 5, the variance will maintain the essential character of the neighborhood as the proposed use is consistent with uses on neighboring properties. The building would be accessed off the existing driveway, and the lot is on a dead-end street with very little traffic. The building will not affect or obscure lines of sight.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Is the applicant either Mr. Strand or anybody else representing Mr. Strand online?
I'm here.
Yeah, Robert, could you identify yourself and your address, please, and then speak to the issue?
Robert Strand, 875 Willow Springs Road. So basically, I have a seal coat trailer that I park in my yard. As you know, we were annexed in, I believe in April of this year. Having a seal coat trailer in the yard is a violation of the ordinance. So I went to the bank to see if I could get funds to put up a detached garage to put my trailer inside. And it's an eyesore. And after getting approval from the bank, I went and applied for the permit, got the building permit, started construction. When I applied for the permit, I read the ordinance wrong. I was under the understanding that I had to be 20 feet from the road, not the right of way. Came to get the inspection to have the concrete poured. And that's when they say I was outside the setbacks. And that's why I'm here getting a variance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Strand. Anybody have any questions from the Planning Commission on this? Otherwise, I will open it up if there's anyone else in the public that wants to comment. But first, is there anyone else, Planning Commission members, that have any questions for Mr. Strand or for Larry? Larry, my question would be, is not on the variance for that being requested, but I know there's a, I don't know if you want to call it swamp or water back there. Are we running into an impervious surface issue here that we need to be concerned with?
We are not.
Okay. All right, anyone else online? Or did you get any letters on this, Larry?
I did not get any comments on this application.
Is there anyone online that wishes to speak to the issue of the variance at 875 Willow Springs Road? Anyone else online?
Say, Bruce, I do have a couple of people as attendees. I don't know if they wish to speak to this issue or not. They haven't raised their hand. Jen, can you move over Steve Schumacher and that the phone that's listed there to see if they want to speak to this?
Yeah, if you're online and you wish to speak to this issue, now is the time to do so. Anyone?
Steve, you're unmuted. No, you were.
Well, if I will,
Hey, Kelsey, Steve Schumacher here.
Go ahead, Mr.
No
Schumacher.
comments. I'm just seeing what's going on.
Okay, thank you. We would love to have the public listen to what we got going on. You bet. Anyone else online that wishes to comment on this issue? If not, if somebody comes on and I've closed the public hearing, we'll certainly be willing to take your comment. In the meantime, I'm going to close the public hearing, and anyone on the Planning Commission member have any comment on this? If not, I'd be looking for a motion.
This is Bob Louiso. I would move to approve.
Motion by Bob. Is there a second?
I'll second, Don Marstoon.
Okay, thanks, Don. All right, motion and seconded to approve the variance. There were no conditions, correct, Larry?
No conditions.
All right, any further comments on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. Liz?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Bruce? Aye. All right, thank you. That takes care of that public hearing. I don't know where everybody is on the Planning Commission in terms of time. We're coming up on 2 hours. How long do you think this next issue will take, Larry?
Well, that depends on how long you talk.
Is there anyone online, before I get into this, just to be clear, is there anyone online that's wishing to address the issue of the city comprehensive plan? Anyone online? Well, Larry, unless planning commission members, if I can indulge you for a few more minutes, as long as we have it on the agenda, Larry, please proceed.
Okay, we talked about this a month or two ago, and there's been some discussion amongst the council members about trying to identify high-density residential areas for future development. And so basically, we came up with the map that's in your packet. It's got the pink properties shown on it as high-density residential properties. And so based on that, we've added some of those items to the comprehensive plan. So number one is to remove Terry Street from high-density residential to low-density residential. I think that would be very good. The city council has passed an ordinance rezoning that area to R2, so it's zoned properly for that. Item 2 is remove an area on Cheryl Avenue from high-density residential to low-density residential. That's because that area is in the airport zone and high-density residential wouldn't be a permitted use there. Number 3 is make a correction to the high-density residential area on Rossman Avenue to a civic. This is because it's a cemetery, so it's a different kind of area. Number 4 is change the area on North Tower Road from open space to mixed-use development for possible commercial or residential development. Number 5, change the area on Central Street north of the middle school from medium-density residential or commercial to high-density residential. Number 6, Highway 34 and Highland Drive would be changed from low-density residential to mixed use. Number 7, Legion Road would be changed from low-density residential and medium-density residential to high-density residential. And part of this area has already been rezoned RM for multifamily development. Number 8 would be Highway 10 and County State 8 Highway 54. It would be changed from low-density residential to high-density residential. And then South Shore Drive and 270th Avenue would change from low-density residential to high-density residential or mixed use. And if you look at those pink areas and then flip to the next page, which shows the future land use map, all of those changes are reflected on this new map. So essentially the brown areas, we've added to some of the brown areas, which would be either high-density residential or mixed use. And these are the areas that we talked about previously.
All right, is there anyone from the public that's online that wishes to discuss or comment on the proposed changes to the city's comprehensive plan? Anyone from the public online? If not, I will close the public hearing. Anyone from the Planning Commission have any comments or questions for Larry? Anyone from the Planning Commission? Larry, the only one I would probably show concern is, and I was on when we studied this, and I was actually the one that brought up that piece on South Shore Drive and 270th Avenue, but I believe our discussion at the time was that it would be single-family residential along both roads, and that the back piece of that property would be considered high-density residential. So I am concerned if you're proposing it to be a high-density residential along both South Shore Drive and the 270th Avenue. I think there would be some comments by folks out that way that would object to that. But
the area right at the corner is shown as neighborhood commercial.
Okay.
But yes, we could amend that slightly and put low-density residential up against South Shore Drive and that 270th, and then high density in the back end. That we can do that.
I would think that would be more agreeable to the neighbors out there, because you'd have residential homes offsetting residential homes, but you certainly could have high residential on that back piece of that property, which would be fantastic for a developer, given that we're putting a park out there.
Yeah, I can make that change. I think that's fair.
Everybody on the planning commission okay with that? Do we need a vote on this, Larry, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know that we need to make I would ask somebody to make a motion to accept the changes to the comp plan if they could include that change on that area, please.
And this is Nancy. I would make a motion to accept the changes to the comp plan with the change that Bruce described for item number 9.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Liz. Any further comments? Okay, if not, I'll take a roll call vote here. Liz?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Bruce? Aye. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Larry, for making those changes and bringing that up. I think that helps as people come to our city and want to develop. That gives them some good information. So thank you for that. Larry, is there anything, other than, I don't want to get into that last item because I think we're running a little late here. Is there anything else though that's not on the agenda that you want to bring up?
Nothing else except that November 17th will be our next meeting, and we're planning to make it virtual again like this.
Okay, and I asked Jen to check and see if we can do the time at 5:15.
Okay.
Kelsey, do you have anything for planning commission members?
Oh, I don't have anything else.
Okay, anybody, rather than go around the table, anybody else in the planning commission have any comments or things they want to say?
It is November 15th. Is that correct or not?
November 17th.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misspoke. And November 17th, we'll confirm the time to you guys, but I'm just suggesting since we're changing the date, we could just change the time and make it a little earlier for everybody to get done with the meeting. All right. Unless somebody has a particular question on the variance or conditional use status report, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Anybody else have any last comments? Thank you all for hanging in there tonight. Everybody okay with the format of this? I think Larry's suggesting we do this virtual again next time. Everybody okay with this format?
Yes.
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 Yep. Yep.
And no, one small technical difficulty, we got through that, Larry. So good job, Jen. Thank you for getting us through the meeting. And we're adjourned.
All right. Very good.
Oh, has that been going?